is still in the dark, but reports are emerging from hospitals and homes that the number of dead and injured keeps rising as Iran confronts this growing crisis.
All right, let's bring in now Lisa Daftari, editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, a news platform focused on global affairs, terrorism, national security, and the Middle East. Great to have you on the BBC. I'm just curious, given the internet blockout, where it's difficult to get information, obviously, from Iran, what's the latest that you're hearing? Are you hearing from anybody within Iran at this hour?
Yes, the Iranian people have had to find creative ways to tell the world their story because of these internet and phone outages. They do this obviously because they want to shut the lights out on the people because of the Iranian level of courage that we saw since 2009 when they put the Green Revolution all around the world. They told the people about their grievances and they became citizen journalists. I'm hearing that there are over 2,000 casualties, and I know that that number is probably much, much higher. The regime is retaliating in the most brutal ways. Millions of Iranians have taken to the streets. We are now 2 weeks into protests, with the last 3 days being more intense than we've ever seen in the last 47 years of the Iranian uprising.
You know, we have seen, as you mentioned, previous uprisings, demonstrations, looking back 2022, 2023, after the killing of Mahsa Amini. Mainly young people really kind of driving that, coming out into the streets. What role do you think the younger generation is playing here?
You know, it was in 2009, I would say it would be mostly city kids, young kids. But since then, there has actually been an evolution in the demonstrations that we see coming out onto the streets. As you said, the Mahsa Amini protests, a lot of women leading the way there. But now, this time, it's more expansive than ever. We're seeing all kinds of ages come out onto the streets. We're seeing retirees, we're seeing men, we're seeing truck drivers, we're seeing all segments of the population. We're even seeing clerical cities that are traditionally aligned with the regime coming out onto the streets. The young people definitely playing a role here. What's interesting is in the segment that you played with your reporter, many of the slogans that we're hearing on the streets, the majority of slogans are calling for Reza Pahlavi. This is the most unity we've seen behind the exiled prince of Iran. Many people of all ages, those young people never knew a monarchy. They never knew the Pahlavi dynasty, but they're nostalgic for something that came before them. They're nostalgic for history, for civilization, and they are aligning behind Reza Pahlavi as the future of Iran.
Yeah, are you surprised by that? Because his father was the Shah. This was certainly not a democratic regime. There were crackdowns on dissent during that time as well. There was corruption. There was economic instability as well. Is it simply a case of the devil you know versus the devil you don't? Why do you think his popularity is now springing up?
Yeah, he's more popular than we've ever seen, but this is only also because we're seeing much more footage coming out and a lot more citizen journalism coming out. I'm not surprised because we call the Shah's era not a democracy. We're calling out the human rights abuses because we're comparing it to 2026. When you compare it with its time, there was freedom. These young people look at pictures of their parents. They hear stories. They see their mothers wearing miniskirts and going to university and having more rights than they have today. So when you do a fair comparison, it was a utopia. And for a lot of Iranians, they look at their parents and say, how did you let this country go like that? And we're going to get that country back. When they say that country, they're referring to a time before the Islamic Republic. There is such a nostalgia. They look at that music, the time, the clothing, the rights, the freedoms that their parents had and they no longer have. And so this is why we're seeing such a unity behind Reza Pahlavi. He himself has come up to send messages of support, of solidarity. And one thing I must say is that he has not pivoted. He has been solid. He has been a guardian of that civilization that comes before the Islamic Republic, so that the 47 years in the eyes of Iranians was just a blip where they feel that they were occupied, that they were under tyranny, and now they want to get their country back. This is their revolution, to get that country back.
Lisa, just before I let you go here, about 40 seconds left, but we've heard these messages of support from President Trump, some of them even hinting at potential strikes on Iran if there are killings of protesters there. Do you think that's something that would be welcomed by demonstrators, or would that potentially damage the credibility of the movement?
So this is a very intricate part of this. The demonstrators, actually, many of them were hoping that during the 12-day war, whether it came from Israel or the United States, would damage parts of the regime, meaning sectors related to the government that would allow them to get their revolution. They just named a street in Iran after Trump. There's graffiti all over the streets of Iran thanking Trump for his support. So I know that Trump, Marco Rubio, they are nuanced enough in foreign policy. They understand the intricacies enough to target any sectors, again, belonging to the regime, their nuclear program, their military, that would not affect the people of Iran. It would not affect the of Iran, and it would help them in their cause. It would be very well welcomed. And of course, if Trump does not intervene, they can get this revolution on their own. It will be much bloodier. It will be a lot more. The price will be much more. But it is in effect a partnership, and it will take this grassroots movement. We've said this for years. People like myself who've been studying and watching Iran for years. The Achilles heel of this government will always be the millions of Iranians that can come out onto the streets and undermine their regime.
All right, Lisa Daftari, editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.